Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Super Breakdown. Today we're going to be looking at the MSAM-033 Gundam G-Arcane, piloted by Ida Surigan. The G-Arcane is a sniper suit that has some pretty cool things to play around with. All told, I'm not a very big fan of it, as you'll see from the resulting gameplay, but definitely can do its job fairly well. Basic shot does pretty good damage, has no charge. You have the beam spray here, which is pretty nice. Very, very good for melee units that are coming towards you. You have the snipe, which is also on your striker. Can be kind of hard to aim because it's a very thin Gurobi, but it does pretty good damage. If you hold forward while using the spray, you instead get this beam field, I guess, in front of you that will stop attacks fairly well. And then if you press right trigger, you go into a separate mode that allows you to fire off like this. You still have your snipe, but it does cost your boost to stay in this mode. You can also hover on this mode, which is pretty nice, and your shot is basically unchanged. You can use RT while moving to get a boost of speed that will help you dodge things like Gurobis. The beam shotgun from there is pretty useful, and your melee changes slightly, though not honestly enough to really be worth it most of the time. You have your basic melee, forward melee that is. You have basic melee, then you have back melee, which is pretty nice, beam whip, and side melee. I think one of the reasons that I dislike the G-Arcane in this game so much and in G-Reco, is that it has such a cool design, and yet it never really gets to showcase that. The burst is pretty nifty, but what it can do feels so similar to what a lot of higher cost suits can do, and do a lot more damage with it. It's very similar to a Cubile in a lot of ways, as if it was mixed with like the Dynamis, but missing a lot of the extra damage that the Dynamis has. It just feels very weak comparatively. That's the forward melee with the skirts up. I believe that's what they were called in G-Reco anyway. Then you have side melee, which is exactly the same with the skirts up. You have back melee, which is exactly the same. And you have neutral melee. Oh, skirts are down. Neutral melee, which is basically the same. The question, of course, becomes, should you use the G-Arcane? Honestly, no. I don't think it's worth it. I think everything it brings, other suits bring, and bring it better. I think it can be fun to use, and if you're playing randoms and get it, there are definitely some things that you can do. But the G-Arcane just doesn't really stand out for me. As we go into the second round here, I'm going to showcase its abilities again, but referencing other suits that have the same ability but better, basically. Because I really think the G-Arcane, it's trying to be like a meld between two different types of suits, and it's just not accomplishing it either, honestly. If the snipe had a charge version that allowed you to do like a thin Gurobi that actually had some like damage to it, it might not be so bad, but the snipe itself does less damage than the Dynamis snipe, and is thinner, it feels like. Much harder to hit with, it feels like. I think they're actually the same size, but it feels thinner because of how hard it is to actually connect with. Because it doesn't have a guaranteed stun to be able to go along with it, to make it hit. You have, the snipe does a little damage more than the basic shot. Shot does 80, and the snipe does 100. 85 actually. So why? You have the shotgun that the Buster and the Sazabi have. It's pretty good here. It's one of your best damage dealers, and by being able to turn it into the straight field, you are able to capitalize on what the Sazabi kind of can't with that, and also be able to do what the Cubiles can do. But that's tied to the same attack. So you're having to choose constantly which one of the two you want to use, which is a cool mechanic, but doesn't help the arsenal of the G-Arcane, I suppose is the way that I would put it. The strike, or the burst is really cool. The burst looks really nifty and does quite a bit of damage. It does not require you to connect with a melee, but it also results in a down after it's only done about 200 some odd damage, which means that you can't ever get a kill with it unless they're already low, because they're down before the attack is finished. Then you have the whole mode here, which is just not... It doesn't do enough, in my opinion, to really separate the G-Arcane. If you could, like, tap back and be able to do flips that barely cost you any boost, then it might be fine. But the mode tries to be sort of like the Dries mode, or some of the other modes, like the Wave Rider modes that require boost to use, just without giving any of that full speed movement that they have. Because your hover speed is not that much better than your dashing speed. And you're using constant boost. So it just winds up feeling weak, comparatively. You can dash forward or dash back, but you're already doing that anyway, whether you're in hover mode or not. So it just feels a little weak, I guess is the right phrase. Let me know in the comment section down below if you like disagree and you find the G-Arcane to be a really good suit. But I have not really enjoyed my time with it. I think that it could be a whole lot better with just a couple tweaks. Make the hover mode faster, and it would be worth the amount of boost that you're spending in it. Make the hover mode also change all your attacks and not just some of them, and it would make it feel a lot better, I think. Make the thin snipe do a little bit more damage if you're going to stay that thin, or be a little bit wider if it's not going to. And maybe make the burst not result in a down, because most bursts don't result in a down until after they've finished. But with all that said, I have been the Full Spectrum. I have been Trey. This has been the Full Spectrum. And remember to always enjoy the full spectrum that the G-Arcane has to offer.